The first item from this list is file. File means actually actually we have different files and we will enter different files into Navisworks. Actually, you if you click on each of these files, all of the files will be selected. For example, if in HVAC, for example, I click on, for example, one terminal, all of the HVAC will be selected. Or if in architectural file, if I click on one architectural item, all of the architectural files will be selected. And also for structural files and other ones. If you, for example, click on one sample, all of that file will be selected. As an example, for example, this part, electrical, if I click, for example, and let me go out first inside this environment actually. Here, like this, you will see all of the electrical will be selected. Or for example, structure, all of the structural files will be selected. So by this way, actually, we can control and set them. Shaded, headlight, that we can see them better. Or pipings, HVAC actually, pipings. You see, plumbing, for example, in here. So like this, you can do this one. You have to be careful that if actually the file that you're working on, you're using from this part, I'm select resolution in here. If that file is NWF, actually each of the elements that you select, the important file will be selected, not all of it. But if you, for example, have an export, publish, export NWD format, and if you open the NWD format, each file that is selected, all of them will be selected. So this is the difference between selection resolution of the NWF file and NWD file. So you have to be careful that if it is NWD, all of the files won't be selected separately and all of them will be just one file. So the next part actually in here is layer. Layer actually, if you import it from AutoCAD, it is named exactly layer, but if you import it from Revit, it will be level. So if I click on level and if I click on each element in here, all of the elements that they are the same level and similar with the level, they will be selected. You see, like this. So let me hide architecture from here hide, so I can see the structure better. You see, just it will select this level. So, or columns, because actually the reason that it has selected some stories because the base is like this, because this column actually is associated, and from the first to the end, it's like that. So you see, this is about layer. But if I click on first object, actually in here, it will take or select the highest level in the group or in that, I don't know, structure. If I, for example, click on this actually line in here, so it will just select the highest part of this group, or for example, fitting. So let me just give you example, just light, that you can see them better. So if I click it, if I click on last unit, it will just go for the last actually part of that group. But because actually it has just one group in here, it will just take one of them. Maybe some groups have some members and some items, it will take the last one. If you click on last object, it will just select exactly that object. And if you click on geometry, it will just take, for example, the group and items of that group. For example, here we have, you know, wire or internal part, or for example, if you just consider a door or window. Let me actually show the architectural file at first so that you can see it better. For example, let's consider this window in here. It has different items, for example, frame, glass, I don't know, handle. If we click them separately, we will use geometry. But for example, if I go on last unit in here, so it will go for one of the higher part or for a higher item. If I, for example, actually click on first object, it will just take the highest item of that group. And for example, layer and file that we've talked about you before about them. If the file is AutoCAD, actually layer doesn't have any kind of meaning. For example, if actually go to Revit structure and we have a kind of DWG export that we can just do it really faster. I will go to File, actually Export, CAD format, DWG. And actually in this part, let's just set it on Meter. And next, actually in DWG folder files, let me just save it in here, paste it, and then we'll go into DWG and let's name it STR and save. You see it got saved in here. Let's return into Navisworks in here from this part, actually Sheet Browser. Let me just import this file into here, DWG. Let's select DWG in here. Let's select it and open it. Let's double click on it that the NWC file is created from that. So you know I've brought this file from AutoCAD. So let's imagine that you've just modeled that in AutoCAD. If you see, we have the layers of this file and we don't have the levels. And every layer includes actually different items that you can select each one that you want in here very easily. And like this, let me collapse it. Let's return to the main file that we had before. So we have another interesting point in here that about the setting of the selection resolution. So actually in projects, if you, for example, I click on this point, actually, for example, you see, if you want, for example, to take the actually carrying a little, or for example, resolution a little higher, you have it, for example, pick radius in selection. Actually in here, you can go and set the resolution, actually, for example, in here, we'll talk about it in the next clip.